Hi, Vinnie. So now we move on to those who are divorced or separated. I mean, I don't think anyone goes into marriage um, thinking that they will ever get divorced. So this is a very sensitive part of our series. What advice do you have for people who have been separated either recently or for years, or people who have done it, made it official and are divorced?
Okay. Um, like you rightly said, nobody goes into marriage thinking they'll find themselves here. This is another window in marriage where the door is actually shut. God does not expect us to get to this window. Bible clearly says that God hates divorce. So it's not an area that any body excited about marriage, standing there making the vows and thinking the next 10 years or 5 years I'm going to be here. No. Circumstances bring people to this point. And like you rightly said, it's a very sensitive area. Um, Especially in our day and time now where weddings are flamboyant, all sorts of people are invited, they are live streamed, people are watching it, people are making comments, and your whole album is on social media, and then few lines down the line, this marriage is facing rocks, and you have to go on your separate. It can hit you really, really hard, really hard. However, if you happen to be in this situation, the first thing I want to say, whether it's newly divorced or you've been divorced for a while, is that don't blame yourself. Don't put the blame on yourself, but learn. What do I mean by that? It is not a death sentence for you to be there. Don't blame yourself. Um, This is not the time for you to apportion blame to your spouse or to if I had done this. Yes, it's good for you to have a reflection, which is one of the topics I'm going to talk about. But don't put the blame on yourself, because if you start apportioning blame, you will never move forward. It becomes a stumbling block that you erect yourself, that you cannot go past it. So drop the blame game. Just drop that. That's the first advice I'll give to you. Just drop it. And the next thing I want to say is stop explaining yourself to people. You see, as soon as you get into that stage, instantly you become very vulnerable. You want to explain yourself to people for two reasons. Either you want people to sympathize with you, or you want to share your feelings with people. You want to rub those things on people, but know who to talk to. When you get into this situation, every Tom, Dick, and Harry doesn't have to know what happened and where you are. So don't explain yourself to people. Everybody should have a confidence, and especially before you married, I'm sure there were one or two people. There was a marriage counselor who counseled you into the marriage. Go back to them, because listen, I always say that the marriage and the counseling we go through prior to marriage is tested when you go into marriage. A lot is learned in marriage than pre-marriage. It's just like a driving test. We do the theory and then we do the practical. Personally, there are a lot of things. I passed my theory test, just once. But there were lots of things I learned on the road. There were lots of signs that made meaning to me. I am a visual person. I want to learn real life situations. So there are lots of things I got to know when I was doing my practical lessons. And then when I finally passed, even when I passed my test, there were things I was still learning. Because of course, your driving instructor is not going to test you on everything you learned in the book. So there are things you get to know as you go along. So don't tell people. Have one person, a confidence, someone you can open up to, someone you can be vulnerable to, someone you can cry. And of course, it has to be someone you revere, because when you become single or you are separated, you become very irritable. So if people don't even sing your song or tone down your line, you can be very rude. So have a confidence. You are not obliged to call every single person in your contact to explain to them. You are not obliged to go to Facebook and even change your marriage um, status to unmarried to announce the whole. No, it is so immature. And so I feel that don't explain yourself to people. Okay, allow healing process to begin very subtle. And God, who has promised that we are never alone, He will be there for you. He says, even when you go through your dark side, He is there with you. So have a confidence and open up to such people. And I think in that process, you should be thinking about reflecting on your experiences. I know I did say that don't put the blame on yourself, but when you write an exam and for some sad reasons, you fail and you have to resit, there are certain areas you have to pay attention to. So reflecting on your whole experience is thinking about what you could do better. Because believe you me, most separated or divorcees can't wait to enter into another one with the intent of trying to show to the other person, like, if you don't like me, someone else said, one man's poison is another one's meat. So if you don't like me, someone else's. You don't need to rush into it. Take your time, take an inventory of your whole experience. Think about, where the problem is coming from. How can I make it better? Should I meet another person? You take time, you learn, you unlearn certain things, and you relearn a lot more. Okay? It is a very, very sensitive area. And I think that most often when people are in this situation, they cut themselves off friends. Please don't be isolated, because Bible says that the enemy finds me for the idle hands. Talk to people. Okay? If you don't blame yourself about what's your experience, if you're not putting blame on your spouse, and you are taking a reflection on yourself, where did you go wrong? What could you have done better? Especially when the blame is on the other person. You can just sit down thinking that God is going to bring to you the perfect man. No. If you don't deal with the cancer that spoils or broke down the first one, that cancer will resurface. So sit down and think about what you can do better. And trust you, a lot of things need to be unlearned and then new things learned, just so that when you launch again, you can be able to put right what was wrong in the previous relationship. And the next thing is not to be afraid to make another move. Yes, um, you might have had a very bitter experience, but that's not the end of the world. Please don't be afraid. The fact that that spouse did this and this and that to you does not mean that all men went to school to learn those skills to break the heart of women. There are good men out there, but you need to trust God to bring to you. The Bible says that affliction will not come the second time. So you need to trust God and move again. Anything you did in your previous relationship or marriage that you think escalated you being in this position, try and unlearn them. If you thought that you didn't get to know the guy so well, when you meet another person, get to know them well. I've spoken a lot. So once you get into this stage, you are back into your single self. But at least you've had an experience. You've had a massive experience. So the mistakes a single person will make, you shouldn't make those mistakes, especially as you've had an experience, of marrying for a few years, even if it's 1 year, it's an experience. So you get into it knowing that I'm going to make things better. Don't go into it to show off to people, that I've gotten a better man or what have you, because you are not even aware or you're not sure of the characteristics or the temperament of the one you're going into. Okay? And these are things you should know when you're friends with that person. That men who just don't know how to talk to women. I mean, they open their mouth and what they say or the words that come out of their mouth, it can cut through the heart. You should know that these are red flags. Please don't gloss over it. It will resurface. Scratch over the surface. There are things you need to talk about. I don't like the way you talk to me. Or if you feel that, sometimes, and if you go out and lot with your fiancé, there are things you know. You go to the public space and then they see other people, other women, and they talk to them nicely. They are, very, courteous with them, and they tend to talk to you, and the facial expression, everything has changed. You should know that this man is not serious. So that is the next thing I want to talk about. That you should try as much as possible to have that faith and launch out again. And trust you me, if you unlearn the previous one, you get a very good experience. And then the last thing I want to say is that if kids are involved in this relationship or in this situation, please, sometimes whatever happened between the two people, has happened. And sometimes we feel that, well, the kids have to plod along, which is not fair most of the times on the side of the kids. One thing you need to remember is that the kids feel it twice harder than we feel as an adult. Your kids go through a lot when the love, the koinonia, the togetherness, having a meal together is all of a sudden taken off them. They are affected. Do not ignore the children. Make the children your priority, please. Make sure their emotional needs are met. And please, as much as possible, co-parent. Most women, especially if it happens with the women, we use that as a bait to take the children off their fathers. And so you don't want them to see, you don't want your ex-husband to see the children again. You know that it is not, listen, you cannot raise the children alone. Please co-parent. I know a lot of women who sadly are in this situation, but the men are involved. This stage has also got its own negativities where, the kids can play you against each other. But please, co-parent, involve the man because a child growing without a man in their life, you don't want to know. A child born without their mother in their life, nobody can replace your the kid's mom. Nobody, no male. Your newly husband cannot be the 100% father of their biological father. So please involve the man as much as you can. Let him be part. Let her be part of the upbringing of their children. There are certain things you need to agree, even though you are separated or you're divorced. If a child is choosing their subject, you have to have a meeting as a family. Even if it's on social media, it's on Zoom, please meet and have a meeting. Don't cut any of them off. Because, I mean, you've already made your decision not to stay together. That's enough. It doesn't negate the wife or the husband being part of the kids' life. Because for children, and no matter how long you take their parents, one parent away from them, when they grow up, they will run after them. So the earlier you keep that connection, the better it will be for you. So that's my bit on divorcee. And sometimes when you're unwell and you go and see the doctor, they will give you medication, and sometimes they will tell you to come back after how many weeks or months for a review. Marriages need review as well. So if you find yourself in this situation, um, your marriage counselor, or whoever counseled you into marriage, is not expecting you to get to this stage. But I believe that when you get to the point where you feel separation, I know of couples who have separated for 2 years and they've come back. They've actually come back stronger than before. I've sat in a meeting where spouses are at the throats of each other, and now their marriage is beautiful. Why? Because it takes someone to counsel. Sometimes it might not even be the married counsel. I remember one of our very good friends who was going through their serious marital issues, serious marital. Like you ask yourself, I mean, are people enemies or their lovers? Serious issue. My head pastor was talking to them all the time, or called them for meetings. It was not working. In fact, it was not working. It took my husband and another friend, pastor of us, who sat our friend down, like voice to voice. The reason, and today their marriage is the one of the best. I mean, it's nice to behold. They wear their color combination of clothes, everything, and they've been married for 20 years. You see that and you're just excited. And you reflect on those things that years ago, this thing could have been history. So going back for counseling, I think you need more counseling when you are at this stage because you become vulnerable. You are open to the enemy. So it's important that you get to that stage where you go for help, seek help, read more, okay, go attend seminars and listen to people who have been in this situation, how they were able to manage it and come out of it. It is very important as well. So yes, counseling is very important. Counseling does not end the day before you go to the altar. Counseling is throughout the whole period because 20 years of marriage, sometimes do I also need to speak to somebody? Yes, I do. I haven't gotten it all. I'm still learning after 20 years because things changes. I remember 6 years ago when I had my fourth child. She's 6 years old, bless her. I had her, and we thought we had finished with childcare, and then she came in, and she came with medical needs. She's a special need. Now I've gotten after 15 years of marriage. I'm now faced with another challenge. It took my pastor's wife. She was like a confidant, and I'm very very strong. I'm a very strong woman, but I used to call her and I would cry. I wouldn't even cry in front of my husband because I needed to stay strong for her, for him as well. I used to call my pastor's wife and I had to tell her how I'm feeling, what I'm going through. So we never ever graduate from counseling. You need counseling. There are people who've been married for 50 years, they are still receiving counseling. God is the greatest counselor. So go to God and ask God to help you navigate through. Yes, that answer to that is yes. Counseling is very important, even in divorce, because it's like an exam. You went the first time, this is what this is the results you have. You want to go again. So you do revision, and then you go again. Yes.
Moving on to individuals who have sadly lost their spouse, either husband or wife. We want your advice, your 5-star advice for widows, any widows or widowers who may be listening. Um, what is the best thing they can do from now? Because some may be wondering, some are young. There are some young widows and widowers. There are some who are maybe in their mid 40s and they just don't see why they should settle down again, and even perhaps they are even left with kids. What is your advice for such individuals?
Okay. Thank you. I think one of the things Bible talks about is the only thing that will separate us from our spouse is death. Again, death is inevitable. When it happens, it happens. People die on strange circumstances, and unfortunately leaves their wife or a husband, alone. Yesterday, I chanced on a video on social media about a Ghanaian lady who lost a spouse here in UK, and I don't know the lady from anywhere, but that's 3 minutes clip I watched when the ladies they were doing the ritual where they were trying to separate the two of them by taking off her ring. I saw it and my heart broke into 1,000 pieces. If I'm not exaggerating, that lady should be in her mid 30s, very young, very very young. So when you are divorced, I think the first thing you have to know is that you have to stay connected. You have to stay connected. People tend to isolate. After the funeral, people, I mean, when the issue happens, people will come and sympathize with you. People will be around you, people will be in your house, but straight after the funeral, if you are back home in Africa, you still have family members staying with you for a while. But here in the UK, where people need to go and chase after the pounds, or any part of the world where you need to get up and go to work, people will just disappear. You'll be left with just yourself and your children, or just you, at the mercy of the situation you are in. So one thing you need to know is that please do not isolate yourself. Stay connected to God, first of all, who is your source. He says, even when you go through the valleys, even when you go through the fire, He's there with you. Know that death is inevitable. You didn't bargain for it, it's come to you. Stay connected, stay connected to your source. If you belong to a church, please don't stop church. Go to church, get to know people, avoid emptiness because, like I said at the beginning, when you isolate yourself, that is when the enemy comes in and make it have a party with you. Your mind um, will be all over the place. You will tend to um, um, you will tend to have this wallow in self pity and feel that God has abandoned you. No, God is there with you. So stay connected to people. And then you have to know that the trust you have in God should even go higher because if you look at the story of Job, everything that Job had was taken off him. Everything he had was taken off him. But God restored everything back to him. So when you are in that state, trust God even more and trust that God will restore back to you good measure, pressed down, shaking together. Do not wallow in self pity. Don't feel that something you change. Yes, the last thing anybody wants to see is to see another person lose a loved one. But if you find yourself in it, please, God is there. He is an ever present help. So rely on Him. Very good friends, stay connected. Don't take people off your contact. I mean, people, I know of a list that I don't want to talk to. Even when you call, you can call her 100 times a day. She will remind you. Because when you are going through your emotion, there's certain stages or times in your life where certain things trigger you emotionally. You will need people to talk to. So stay connected and trust God. And you need to set your priorities and your goals right. Yes. I know when your husband is there, it's a shared responsibility. Okay. Some things can wait. Don't feel that you have to take on everything and have to do everything at a go. What needs to wait should wait. You need to try and make good use of your support systems, especially when you find yourself abroad where help is there. Seek counseling, go for counseling, get people to talk to you. People need to speak into your life, but most importantly, go on your knees and talk to your Father in heaven because He will not leave you nor forsake you. Go there and talk to God and especially when there are children involved. I said it, I think, when I was talking about separation. Don't neglect the needs of the children as well. They are equally affected by that. So please pay attention to the children. Ask for help. And lastly, allow yourself to be loved again. Right. Don't feel bad that, people will talk um, about the fact that, oh, your husband just passed few years ago, and so she stays single. I don't think I am for that school of thought. I believe that there is love out there because if there is restoration, then God can restore you back and another spouse who you might grow to love even more than before because affliction will not put you in that situation forever, especially when kids are involved. Most often, men won't waste time on that. In fact, I don't know how many men have been in this situation and they've stayed there for even 3 weeks. They can't, even if the person is a bishop, they can't. Otherwise, they will be having an affair or they will be, have girlfriends and all that. It's women. Women, we are very funny. You feel that even in death of your spouse, you have to stay loyal to the person. And so, oh, I'm not going to get married. No, please, you'll be burning. Bible says it's best for you to get married and to stay burning. So please allow yourself to be loved again. And I know that sometimes even the looks of your diseased spouse might even trigger you emotionally. Even if you go for the same look as your spouse and it's okay for you, please go ahead. Yes, in this age and time now, people will talk about the fact that maybe you were even having an affair with this person, and then if you eventually marry the person, let him talk. He said, my husband keeps saying that if your heart does not condemn you, go ahead and do it. because God will not condemn. You know your heart that this is a genuine man God has brought your way. Go for it and enjoy it. Allow yourself to be loved again. Because as one door is shut, many more are being opened for you. Okay? Maybe it is the orchestration of God. Maybe God allowed it to happen for various reasons. Bible says that God is you can't fathom the wisdom of God. Okay? So you need to allow yourself to be loved again. Let someone come around your life. Your husband, probably your deceased spouse, has laid some foundations or certain stepping stone in your life. Somebody else has to continue. Please, you cannot stay single unless you want to. At the end of the day, it's a free will. If you want to stay single and will stay single and not sin, that is fine. But allow yourself to be loved again. So that's my take on um, the widows. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lady Vinnie Quaicoe. So lovely to have you. You have shared so much. So, for those who are sadly widows or widowers, um, please do not isolate yourself. Stay connected with the people around you, your family. Trust God, pray, and allow yourself to be loved again. That is a wonderful, wonderful point you've shared with us, Lady Vinnie. God bless you so much for coming, for sharing out, pouring out all the wisdom for the singles, newlyweds, for the married, for the divorced, for the widows and widowers. We really appreciate you for setting time away aside for us. God bless you. We hope when we invite you next time, you will be here. God bless you.
Anytime. Anytime. Thank you for having me. Thank you. God bless.